Hey YouTube, we are diving into timeline planning for a big party. If you are freaking out about hosting a big event or a big party at your house and making all the food, this is going to help you. I've been doing catering, home catering, I guess. I don't do it as a business, but we have a big family and I love to cook. And so we host, usually the Christmas party here will have 50 to 65 people in our house. And I make all the food. Not every party we do is where I make all the food, but in general, if people are coming to our house, I'm doing all the food. Since I have made copious notes over the years, I have my notebook. I have my ratty notebook with all my notes. Every note that I have taken from all these parties over the years, and I'm going to go over my timeline. I do have a video I just did on how to host and cater a party at home. If you want to see that, I'll post a link up here. Today is going to be timeline. We're going to talk about how in the world do you do the planning to make this possible, because I won't say you can do this without help. I make all the food, but at the end, you will need help. We end up with 50 to 60 people in the house, so I will need help setting out all the food at the end. My mom usually comes to visit and my brother will come to visit. They fly in and that last week they are here. So I do have help. I don't do this single-handedly. I make the food and I start 45 days ahead for this big of an event. But at the end, my brother always comes and he'll pick a couple of dishes to make. My mom jumps in and helps with making candy and things. So we decorate the whole house. I have help with that stuff. So I do make all the food. I usually end up making, last year, we went over this in the other video, but we had 55 different choices of food for 61 people. I just make a ton of different little things and there's lots of choices and it always works out. So all of that will be covered in the video prior and in the next few videos as we get into the actual cooking. Today I'm going to talk to you about notes I made. I made my notes. I'll show you this. I'll video this up close and you can walk through this with me. We're going to be walking through the timeline of how this is possible if you're planning a big party at your house. And since it's October, there's still time. So hopefully this will help you. If you are planning a lot of people at your house, however big, you can downsize this to whatever number you're going to be planning for. We're planning for early December for probably 60 people. And so I'm going to start 45 days-ish early cooking. But if you're going to do this and you don't want to have a big grocery bill all, crammed in at the end right before the holidays, especially around Christmas, I start buying groceries in the summer. And the only way to make this easier on yourself is to spread it out over many months. So you're going to need this stuff. So just whenever you're at the grocery store, I start about August, just throw some extra stuff in your cart. Throw in some extra cream cheese, throw in an extra bag of flour, an extra bag of sugar, brown sugar, molasses, whatever it is that you're going to need for this event and for the things you're going to be cooking. Just start add in $20 extra, $50 extra on your, because groceries, as we know, are not cheap. So start now and just throw in things that can go in the freezer, puff pastry, any of that stuff you can get now and just put it in the freezer for later. Do it along the way and then you will not feel this. This will not be it will be eased into your budget and it won't be painful at the end. So that is my 4 to 6 months out. Start getting groceries. Then you're kind of good for the next couple of months, and 2 months out, which is about where we are right now. I'm going to be sitting down and going through our guest list and ordering invitations. And I don't remember where I ordered invitations last year, but it was somewhere neat and they were pretty. I get official, order them in the mail and then I hand letter them and mail them out. It's just, they're pretty. You can print them out. I've done that where I've just printed out a thing, a flyer off the computer and mailed it. But people like to have it in hand. I mean, you can text it or whatever, but I'm old school and I like an invitation in the mail with a stamp on it. So, and then go buy stamps too. That is 2 months out. 45 days out for a big party like what I'm doing is when I'm going to start cooking. And that's going to be early things. Like I'm going to make fruitcake this week because it needs to sit for at least a month. Pretty soon I'll be making the salami. I'll be making brie. That's all things that need that time. But you can also start making cookies right now and putting them in the freezer. So 45 days out, or however many dishes you're going to make. I made 55 different things last year, although not all of them are made. 55 different choices. Some of them are olives, which you crack the can open and dump them out. So I didn't make 55 things. I haven't done the math on how many of these things are things I made, but I would say 3/4 of them are things I made. So take whatever you're making and back up the timeline. If you're making 40 dishes, start 45 days ahead and just make something every day. It's that simple. Make one thing every day. You're not making a big giant mess in the kitchen. You're not trying to make 50 batches of cookies at once. Make one batch. Make one recipe of whatever your favorite cookie is and put it in the freezer. It's like, how long does it take to make a batch of cookies? It's not that much if you break it up over time. That is 45 days out. Then 5 weeks out or so, about a month plus, is when I will call our local rental place and rent and reserve plates and the footed goblets that we reserve for this party. And usually that's less than $100. And I'll get a plate per guest plus some, and we always end up with more. I don't know why, but we always end up with clean plates that we take back at the end of the weekend. You rent them for the weekend. I'll pick them up on the Friday before the party. The party's Saturday. You don't have to wash the dishes, which is why I do this. You rinse them. They don't need them washed. So you give them a rinse. Like when everyone's done with their plates at the end of the night, you just run them, rinse them and put them back in the, they come in a big crate that's in a bag, and you put them in the crate, zip tie the bag back up, and they go in the car, and you take them back Monday and they wash them. So that is hugely helpful. And we don't use forks, so we're not doing a bunch of silverware and flatware. And if you're doing the glasses, especially for a big group, make sure you get some kind of a marker or a tag or a label or some way to mark the glasses so that people can set their glass down and not be like, oh no, there's 5 glasses, which one is mine? Get some kind of a labeling system for your glasses. That is 5 weeks out. A month out is when I mail the invites. Then you're still cooking every day through this whole time period. Then 2 weeks out is when we are going to be making candy filling. Anything that you can make ahead and get in the freezer shorter term, like any fillings that I make. If I'm going to make, like if we're making jalapeno poppers or if I'm making quesadillas, I'll make the fillings about 2 weeks out and put them in the freezer. And that's also when I'm going to start lining up, calling my daughters, make sure my brother's coming. What are you making? What do you want to do? And then kind of like arrange some help for those last couple of days, and especially the day of, because there's no way you can put 55 things on a table while you're also trying to bake the last 2 things in the oven that need to go out hot by yourself. You can't, that isn't possible. We're not saying that that's possible, because it isn't. 1 week out, I will usually shampoo the carpets, and then as you get closer, you're going to be clean, get your bathrooms clean, do all of that you would normally do for company. And whenever you do that in your timeline is up to you. And a week out, I'll also shop for all the fresh ingredients, like I'm going to do stuffed mushrooms, or if we're doing, and then closer to the day, go and get like fruit, any of the fruits you want to put out, anything that is only going to last a few days in the fridge, get that closer in that week. During that week, I will also make any of the sauces that we're doing, because a lot of the things we make, they're like quesadillas, and I make like a chipotle adobo sauce. So I'll make that. I'll make a honey mustard sauce. Some of those things that we're using for dipping, if you're making any dressings, anything for dipping things in, I make that during that week before. 4 days before, I will pull a lot of the things out of the freezer. Between the 2nd and 4th day before, pull out any cookies that were frozen. If I make a little sausage thing that's in puff pastry, it's like a pig in a blanket, but it's a bite size. I'll pull those out like 2 days before. So in that 2 to 4 day mark, you're going to be pulling things out of the freezer. So you have stuff sitting out, defrosting. That takes us to 3 days before. If you're doing deviled eggs, I boil the eggs. I will make any of the candies, like dipped chocolate things that you're doing last minute. We do like almond bark, any of that kind of stuff. I'll do that about 3 days before. 2 days before, you're going to be cutting up meat, cheese, any trays that are doing like charcuterie, as long as you can cover them really, really well so they don't dry out in the fridge in the next 2 days. Any of the cut up vegetables, if you're doing a veg tray, cut up all your veg, get all of that covered, tightly covered, but get it cut up. And even if you don't get it on the platters that 2 days before, like the vegetables, especially like cauliflower, broccoli, cucumber, any of that, I'll cut it up 2 days before and put it in big Ziploc bags in the fridge, just so they're sealed up, but they are ready to dump out on the day of the party. Also, at the 2 day before mark is 2 to 3 days, I'll start taking apart the dining room, move the dining room chairs out, extend all the tables to the longest they can be, line the dining room with the tables that we're going to be using, put the tablecloths on them, and I'll actually do kind of a dry run and pull all the platters out that I'm going to be putting all of this food on, lay out all the platters and kind of arrange them, kind of puzzle piece them together on all these tables and see how the layout is going to go. So, and then I actually print out labels for all the food. I take a little, just take a a skewer stick, like those little wooden skewer sticks, and cut them. And I'll print a little label and then cut out a little tag label sized, and then glue it to the end of a little stick so it can stick, so people can see what is this? We don't know. So you're not having to explain what everything is. They just go through and there's labels. So I will print the labels out, and those are made, and then you lay out the table 3 days ahead, lay out the platters, kind of arrange them where they're going to be, and I put the label for each platter. I'll just lay it on the platter so you know that that's what's going to be on that dish. Then one day before is this kind of panic mode, order pizza for dinner because you aren't cooking. That's when I'll make the deviled eggs. I'll lay out the cheese and meat plates on the actual trays so they're ready to just set out. That is the day that I'll make stuffed mushrooms, which I always make. So and they're a long process. It's like Julia Child stuffed mushrooms, and there's many steps, but they're so good. I don't even like mushrooms, and I'll eat these. They're so good. So I'll do the stuffed mushrooms. Anything else you can possibly do on the day before, do it, because you will. The day of, you cannot imagine how many things you're going to have to do. So just do it the day before if you can possibly do it. And that night is when I will start putting out like any of the pickle things, anything that I can get on a tray and get it covered and put in the fridge. We have an extra refrigerator. Have an extra refrigerator. You won't be able to put. I mean, if you have a regular size fridge and a smaller party, but for this big of a party, we need every inch of a whole second refrigerator gets filled. And so have some space to do this. As many things as I can get on the platters the night before, I will do it and get them in the fridge. So the next day, about a half an hour to 45 minutes before guests are arriving, I'll start putting out things that need to stay cold, cold-ish things. And then on the day of, try not to have an anxiety attack. Get up. Everything is already arranged. You have all the platters mostly in the fridge. You're going to be baking. I have a lot of things that go out hot. So it's kind of panic mode, but you need to make a plan the night before. I'll have things labeled, ready to go in the oven on the day of the party. So it's ready to go. It's covered in saran wrap. I will take a Sharpie and say you have stuffed mushrooms prepped and ready to go in the oven on the day before. On the actual saran wrap on that dish, I will write whatever it is, like artichoke dip, make that early in the week. Put it in a container that's ready to go in the oven, put it in its dish, saran wrap, and I just write on it, 400 times 15. So I know it needs to go in at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. Because you're going to need to plan that unless you have another oven. If you have two ovens, we have separate little ovens that we can use that are on the counter that I will pull out sometimes, but they're in the attic and it's a hassle. So I just usually try to run everything through the kitchen oven. So make notes of what things go at what temperature, because you're going to have to back up your timing to arrange for different temperatures and different times. Try to arrange it, and it will take a little, writing things down. And I have all my notes. This is from last year's notes. But this, I have a whole run through of all the days before and the week before, what am I making each day and what we're doing on the last couple days. So try to time it so all the hot stuff is going in the oven in that last hour and a half before guests arrive. So it can be out and it's warm when they get there. And we've been pretty good about having it where everyone walks in and the food is all magically out on the table, piping hot, ready to go. But get some help for that, because the getting it from the oven to the table, plus the things out of the fridge that need to go while you're in the kitchen still cutting up quesadillas, you've got to have some help for that. So that is my timeline to make this happen. And we're going to be going through, as we go through this season, I'm going to be doing all this. So I'm just going to try to film it so it makes some kind of sense. So stay tuned for the rest of the series, and we'll be walking through as we get closer and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And we'll try to turn on the camera the last couple of days for sure, so that you can see the mild panic mode of trying to get everything done at the last minute and what it looks like to put this all out and have it happen and have it ready to go when your guests show up. So I hope this helped you. We'll see you in the next video.